Howdy all, Lex Lives. I think it's time we play a little 7 Days to Die. Alright. Just getting morning here. I've been, as you can see, clearing out a little bit of this overhang on the roof. It's about time I get my garden started here. And so I wanted to get this cleaned out to the edges, I guess, as I get started. It'll make things a little easier for me here. If I can start getting some food growing. But I want to do that before I head off to hunt down some new places to loot, that's for sure. I just got one more little section here, and then I can put down the dirt, and then I can start putting down some seeds, and I'll be ready to go. Yeah, man, yesterday was cram-packed full of stuff. So I had work, obviously. And, although that's not obvious, I don't know why I say obviously, because it's never obvious, you don't know. You don't sit next to me when I go to work. And, alright, now I'm gonna want some frames, I think, here. I probably... you know what, let's just go ahead and do it. Oh, dang it. I almost killed myself right there. I did not mean to walk off the edge, okay? This is why I need frames. Otherwise, I'm gonna walk off the edge and kill myself right here. I can't quite reach down that far. I don't remember what my rule is for how far out you can go before you have to support these things. It's making me a little nervous. So, yeah, so then in the middle of that, we had, oops, in the middle of work, I had some training going on, and then back to work after that, and so it has been, you know, it was a busy day, and so then once I get done with work, right, well then I've got videos to work on, and that takes a while, and then, is that filled in there? Yeah. And then after all that, well, then it's time for comic book night, right? So I gotta read the comics, so that takes me a couple hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, huh? I guess 12 is good enough to get started with here. I'm gonna need some more lumber though, so I can fill in these floors. So let's go get some more lumber. I see some big trees right over here. So, and then on top of that, we started back up D&D. Oh man. Got myself a little horde. Keep running across these little hordes everywhere. I don't know why they're so interested in me, but man, they sure are. Probably because I'm the only living thing. Oh, that's not true. There's those guys in the old trading areas, right? I need some stamina here. Ah. I cannot aim this thing. I am not sure where you're supposed to put the point of that arrow. I guess right on him. And, so of course, the guy who runs it, doesn't show up when he's supposed to show up for comic book night. And then, try to make it last longer than it needs to. And then, the other guy we play with said he was going to be there at 9:30, and then he didn't show up until almost 10. And the guy who runs it said we couldn't stay late, but he'd already decided that we weren't actually going to start the campaign really last night because he doesn't have it ready. Because we needed time to figure out the new system, is what he said. But I know that means he just doesn't have it ready. And so he scraped together a couple of... You know what? I made armor last episode, and I totally made the wrong kind of leg armor. Look at that. I made leather armor. I don't know what I was thinking. It was supposed to be iron armor. But I went ahead and made leather leg armor. Oh yeah, trees. I came over here for trees, specifically for trees, and got attacked by a horde. So, so we finally get to the point where we're supposed to be starting our D&D session last night, and I wanted to have everything ready, and so they didn't even get to the point where we have a room where we can add our characters because we're using Roll20. And so to use the automated character sheets that allow you to just click on your weapons and stuff and it rolls for you, you have to have a room available, a game room. And so the guy who's running it didn't have a game room until, was it yesterday? It must have been yesterday. And, or no, it was the day before. And, but then loading stuff into the sheets is like a nightmare on there. Like, it's been a long time since I've done programming. But come on, guys. Have you ever heard of a drop-down menu or something? Like, if the program is smart enough to allow you to drag and drop from the compendium, then can't you just pull straight from the compendium via a drop-down list when I go to add something? And then on top of that, it like half freezes up sometimes because you're dragging from one object to another, and then for whatever reason, it worked fine until right before we started to play, and then it wouldn't roll damage. Something was wrong in the coding, and it just freaking out about damage, and you had to shut off damage. So then I got to roll manually anyways. I'm like, what is the point of using this system? So the only reason we're using this system is because that's right. I don't know why we're using this system. You have to pay for it. We already paid for tabletop, which is what we'd been using. You have to pay extra. Not the people who are playing, just the guy who's running it has to pay extra to use it. He loaded in all the pre-built stuff, which I think is why he wanted to use this instead, so that he didn't have to actually do any work on his end. Because we're running a book campaign, and so there's there's some work he's gonna have to do, but for the most part, a lot of it's handled by the book. And then because Roll20 is a popular site, they already have all the stuff made for the book he's using, and so he can just load in the pre-made stuff, maps and things. But I find it to be really clunky, man. It's a really clunky system. It's very hard to work with. It's not easy at all. Okay, I just repeated the same thing like 3 times. Okay, they put your character down on the map. I'm sure somewhere in there must be a setting that I'm not aware of, but that's the problem. You're not aware of where any of the settings are, and so when you click on something, it's not visibly prevalent. It's just all of a sudden you've got options on the screen, and so every time you click on your character to move your character around, well, it's got these 3 circles you can put numbers in, pop up on the screen. It's got 2 other option buttons, and I'm like, okay, I get why you'd want that to sit your character up, but once they're set up, why can't none of that just be there? And when I click on my guy, he's just ready to drag. But no, there's none of that. And then oh man, setting the character sheets up just took me a long time. Like, I can fill out a character on the I use PDFs for a lot of my stuff, and so involving D&D, not normal things. And so I downloaded the official PDF character sheet thing, and so it takes me very little time to fill out a new character sheet. Man, I must have spent close to 2 hours filling out 2 character sheets on this crazy system they've got for this character sheet. It's just really hard to use. And then, like, not all the information's available, so you can't even drag and drop the information, which is the whole reason he wanted us to use these character sheets. Actually, he said it last night. The reason he wanted to switch to Roll20 is because, and I was right. The reason he wanted to switch to Roll20 was because I had stopped using the dice in the game because I found it. Oh, you know what? My entrance is right here. Dang it. I didn't think this through. You know what? I'm just going to go out this way then. I'm just going to build off to the side here. I'll tear all this down. Either way, I want to get some well, no. Now I've got to keep working on this. I can't run off. I'm going to have to work on this gardening stuff today. That's all there is to it. I've got to have room, and the only way I can do that is if I build out to the side here. So I got to go chop down some more trees. So he said one of the reason he was doing it was because I was rolling on my phone, and he can't see my phone, and he doesn't believe me when I tell him what I rolled. And even though he does all his rolling hidden, so we can't even see what he's rolling, which is fine if you're the GM, but is not fine when his character rolls hidden. And because the dude gets an inordinate number of 20 or higher rolls, and so it's very annoying when his character constantly, like, he's got a +5 to initiative, and his initiative is almost always over 20. That's just not possible. And I know in our Thursday night, our Monday night game, which used to be our Thursday night game, he plays a character on there, and I don't watch him roll on there either, but he still gets an inordinate number of 20s in my opinion. And it's annoying. I think he rolled 2 times where he didn't have a round or higher than a 20 for skill checks on last Monday. But so yeah, so he wants to use roll 20 because then he can see our rolls, and because it's still not as easy to use as my phone, because my phone is just a few clicks and it's done, pushes, whatever you call it, touches. And I honestly don't know what it's called on a touch screen. It must be touches. Just a few touches and it's done. And this thing, you have to actually type it out. So if I want to, like, this was one of my issues, was there's no ability to sit in without programming it yourself, because that's one of their things. Oh, well, you can just program all the macros you want. I don't want to program any macros. I just want the thing to work when I go to play. I shouldn't have to go on to an automated system. And I didn't want recipe. I wanted to drink this. I shouldn't have to go on to an automated system to program it myself. It should just be automated. And so one of the characters I play is a rogue, and the rogue has an ability called Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack. Oh man, my axe is gonna break here. Oh, I say that, my axe is broken. I guess I could just repair it. So Sneak Attack doesn't always apply. It only applies the first time you attack during a turn. And, well, no, it only applies the first time you hit during a turn. Or it applies when you want it to apply, whatever. And so, but only once per turn. So it doesn't, so it doesn't happen every time. But you know what they don't have? They don't have Sneak Attack. That's not something you can add to the sheet. You tell it you're a rogue, and it automatically fills out all the rogue parts for your stats, but none of your abilities, which is the whole useful thing. And so I'm like, what the heck, man? This is not making my life any easier. And so then I know, like, the one guy didn't even attempt to load his character in, even though we sent him all the information the day before. So they were doing that at the beginning, so we didn't even get started until, I don't know, way later than we should have, because nobody was ready. I was ready, but nobody else was ready. And so they couldn't find all the information. The guy who's running the game hadn't actually gone through any of this stuff. Wasn't sure where anything was at. He couldn't remember how to use any of the features. Like I said, it's a really kind of a clunky system to use, in my opinion. I mean, now, admittedly, I have not played from the DM side of things, so maybe it's way easier on the DM side of things. But on the player side of things, it is way more difficult than what I do in tabletop. And so that's all I've got to compare it to. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And so then he's trying to use it after I'm like, dude, this thing is not easy to use, and he's like, you gotta give it time. This is the system we're gonna be using. And he's like, man, I hate this system. Yeah. 1, 2, dang it, this went in the wrong spot. I need this here. And so it was not easy to get started last night. 1, 2. Thanks for placing that block there. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. Oh, right where that tree's at. We'll extend that out, but I don't care. I'll build out. One, 2, 3. And so we finally do get everything loaded, and we get started. And so he's like, let me give you a rundown of everything that happened last time. I'm like, no, dude, we don't need this. No. I'm like, dude, we don't need this. We don't need a rehash of what happened last time, because what happened last time was we finished the previous campaign. We're starting a new campaign. Just tell us where we're starting. I don't want to sit here while you ramble on for another 30 minutes or whatever. Just let's go. I'm tired of waiting. And I was cranky. I'll admit it. I was a little cranky at that point. But we didn't need a rehash. And he had told me to 1, 2, 3, to watch this guy online who explains how to play the game. And so I did. And one of the first things he said was the DM should never give a... Is that not called a wooden frame? If this comes up as a wooden frame, it's wood frame, sorry. Yeah, okay, I don't want 100. Let's do 100. I don't need 400 of those. And so I'm like, dude, that guy you told me to watch said not to do this. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, he said, do not, as the DM, do not give the players, you know, a recap of what went on before. It's their job to remember it. And you have more information about things than they have. And so don't do this. Just don't do this. We don't need it. It's not part of what we're about to do. It's a waste of time at this point. You can't give us a rehash when it has no impact. And then he oh, this was great. He decided that okay, so the previous campaign, man, I gotta do this fast because we're running out of time here. The previous campaign, we had to rescue this guy, and so after we rescued him, he gave us shares, basically, in his... Oh, jeez, I'm gonna kill myself doing this. He gave us shares, basically, in his mine. And, well, when we had finished this extra quest thing that he designed for us to do, we actually ended up owning more than the 10%. We owned 12%. Split between us. We had 12% shares. 12% of the shares of the mining company. In return, though, we gave that guy 14% shares in... I don't understand why we have shares in anything, but it suddenly turned into a business simulation at one point. And get off me, little bug. And so, so I had it written down what had happened, and so he starts off, and I'm like, well, it's 12, and he's like, no, it's 10. It says it right here in the book. It's 10. I'm like, no, remember we did it because we get actual money in the game from it, so you have to make sure, because this guy's a cheater, and so if you don't keep on watch for what he's saying, he will change what's going on. And it happened last night, too. But, so anyway, so after we argued about that for a few bits, and then the other guy's like, yeah, that's what I've got written down, too. 12% of the mines. He's got 14% of the Miners Exchange, which is what we own. Because that was the, it's been a while since I talked about it, but we had said we were going to kill this NPC, and he didn't want us to kill the NPC, so when we came back to town, he said she was dead, so that we couldn't kill her. And then he said out loud, I guess you're not going to be killing that NPC. So, yeah. Anyways, so we get started last night, and then he's going on about, oh man, did I already use 100 things? I was wrong. Maybe I do need 400 frames. Here, just make all those. I'll get more later. I didn't realize I was going to be using so many. And so, so we, get started, and he's starting new information after we talk about that. And so he says that he apparently feels we have too much money from the previous campaign. I don't understand why this was a thing, but he tells us that since we took over the business, which I guess he didn't want us to take over, that we now owe the previous owner's creditors a bunch of money, like 500 gold apiece or something, he said. And I'm like, what? No. I'm like, no. Why would we owe the previous owner's creditors money? I'm like, she died. There was another guy who took over. He died. And we're just basically taking over the empty building. I'm like, how do we owe her creditors? He's like, well, that's how it works in the business world. And I'm like, no, if I start a new business, just because someone else owed people money and we're in the same building, even if they're doing the same job, I don't owe that other person's creditors. What are you talking about? And he's like, well, that's you have to pay off her creditors. I'm like, no, I'm not paying off her creditors. He's like, well, then they'll send somebody. I'm like, send them. I'll kill them. I'm like, I am not paying for her debts because she died to somebody else. What does that have to do with us? And he's like, well, fine. Well, you don't have any stock. I'm like, well, it's not that kind of business, but sure. And he's like, well, you took over after that other guy was here, and he was a necromancer who apparently used up all the stock in his rituals, even though the stock is raw ore from mines, and we own part of a mine. So I'm not seeing the logic here where he wants us to dole out our money. So then he's like, well, you're going to have to spend money to get stock then, so you're still going to have to... I'm like, nope. I'm like, we can sell stuff on consignment. And he's like, I don't think the business would work that way. I'm like, sure, the miners bring in their stuff to here as a central drop-off point. And then we go sell it, and then we come back, and, well, not we sell it, because we hired the miner guy to run the exchange for us. And, yeah, so that was a pretty long argument about business, which I didn't feel had a place. We're adventurers, man. We hired somebody to run all this for us. He deals with that stuff, not us. But I felt like it was a way to reduce the amount of money we had after the previous campaign, because we have almost 1,000 gold apiece, and I don't think he likes that. Even though we're level 5, which you should probably have, you know, some money at that point. And so I don't know what his problem with the money was. It was weird. It was a weird thing to suddenly be demanding that we give up our money. And then, so then he asks us where we're staying. And so he says we can't stay in the manor that we now have, because it's been a month, but in a month they haven't managed to do enough with it to make it so we could sleep there. And so fine, whatever. So then he wants to know if we're going to stay at the inn. And I'm like, well, did we move anybody into the farmhouse? Because we also own a farm in the town now. And he's like, well, no. I'm like, well, then why don't we just stay in our farmhouse? And he's like, well, then you're going to owe money for supplies while you're here in town. And then the other guy's like, yeah, but didn't we just save this town, like, twice? Don't they owe us? And he's like, you can't just stay for free. And we're like, he's like, just deduct 25 gold apiece then. I'm like, okay, well, 25 gold apiece is a lot better than the 500 he started with. So, speaking of construction, this feels very construction-like here. With all these... I wonder if I'm hitting that, or if I'm hitting the one below it. Nope, looks like I'm hitting both of them. So... We, he asks us if we're setting up defenses at the farm. And I'm like, oh, why? It's a farm. Like, this is a town. So then we get to the part that irritated me the most last night. We get attacked. I'm like, that's fine. That's how he wants to start the new campaign. He wants us to go to Red Larch. It's a town nearby. But he mentioned it multiple times last night. It's the only thing I wrote down in my notes was Red Larch. Repeatedly. We probably heard 3 different things about Red Larch. So obviously the only place he wants us to go is Red Larch. I kind of feel like I ought to talk to the other guy and just pick a different direction and not go the direction he wants, just to irritate him. Technically, that's called removing player agency when you only give them one choice. Which people complain. I don't have a problem going to Red Larch. We're going to go to Red Larch, I'm sure. So we attacked by an assassin and a wizard, and of course we roll out initiative, and his guy rolls a 25 on initiative. His DMPC. He's definitely a DMPC, the bad kind. Because all he talked about was his guy's glory, how he got to take the killing blows, how important his character was. Once again, his first move was to run up, punch somebody, and then run away and hide behind the sorcerer. And this is the thing that irritated me. He did not draw the dimensions of the building we were supposed to be fighting in. And so we had no idea where anything was at except for us and the bad guys. And he had his bad guy cast a super high level spell against my guy because my one character is always his first target. Every time we fight, my one character is his main target, it feels like, because they take the most damage. Because obviously his character's as far away from the bad guys as possible. And so my dude almost gets killed right off the bat. Hey, zombie. And so I'm like, alright, well, it's going to be one of these fights. And so then I rolled really bad on damage, like impossibly bad on damage. I rolled 5d10s. 3 of them were 1s, and 1 of them was a 2. So yeah, almost like impossibly bad, and I'm just like, man, I hate the random number generator in Roll20 because it rolls horribly. I like the one on the phone because it seems to be a better spread, but I pretty much only roll low on that Roll20, and it sucks. So is this my place over here? And so I barely do any damage then to the wizard, and I'm like, dang it, that dude almost killed me already. I needed him to die quickly. So then I have to run my second character because he had me play 2 characters because he didn't feel 3 characters was enough in our party. And so then I have to waste that character's turn fighting the wizard because I rolled so poorly with my other guy. And then he rolls runs his character back over because the other guy in our group also was rolling poorly and couldn't hit anything. And so then his character runs up and stuns the assassin, so they can't do anything. And then here it is. He didn't draw the dimensions of the house on the map. We just fought our battle on top of the city map. No idea where walls are at or furniture or anything like that. And he just picks up another assassin and drops them on the board next to my guy who already took the most damage and said, this guy comes running in from outside. But how did he run in from outside? We were in a different area than where the other guys ran in from. So we're not in an open field. And I'm just like, whatever, fine. So then we kill his assassins and wizard that attack us. He is not happy because we have not died yet. He is very, very upset that none of us have died yet. And he's like, I should have known. Doesn't matter how much I throw at you guys, you always survive. Yeah, that's the point of the game. And so then that's where he ended it, basically, was after we got the information that we need to go to Red Larch from those guys as well. But I'm like, seriously, you didn't even give us dimensions to know what was going on, dude. So we'll see. We'll see. Next week we should start up, hopefully, a little better. Now that things are mostly loaded in. And I need to take a look at the system myself. Like I said, I haven't looked over the system as it is, so I'm not sure how it knows what you can load in or anything like that. And I don't think I'm motivated enough to program my own character sheet. Although I do know how to program in this stuff they said you need to program a character sheet, so... But, yeah. Alright, well, I am going to go ahead and call it there. And, unfortunately, I did not get to go hunting today for new scavenge. I gotta get this garden going, though, because I'm at 2% food, and I have no food. Except my garden stuff. Oh, now I'm out of... Oh, dang it. There's not a block there. Yep, I am gonna kill myself. Gonna kill myself working on this. Now I'm out of wood. Alright. But I need to get the rest of this filled in. And I need to get this torn down. There's another one. Oh no. Are there any more? Am I done falling through emptiness? It's hard to tell, man. They're all those squares. I'm sure it's not that hard to tell. Let's see. We see any more spots that look like they're just open squares? No, that looks pretty filled in now. All right. With that, click like if you like, subscribe, share, and catch the next one. We'll talk to you later.